Earlier this year, Mayo Clinic, Arizona performed an exceedingly rare larynx transplant. Indeed, it's the first known successful larynx transplant involving a patient with active laryngeal cancer. And to learn more about this groundbreaking procedure, we welcome Dr. David Lott of Mayo Clinic, Arizona. Welcome to the program. Congratulations on this. Was fascinating to read about. This is a total transplant here. Windpipe, voice box. Talk about, I mean, what was involved here?
Sure, yeah. If we think about a larynx transplant, it's really more than just the larynx. So the larynx, we think of the voice box part of it. But like you mentioned, there's the trachea, the upper part of the trachea, the upper part of the esophagus, the pharynx, the thyroid gland, parathyroid glands, nerves and vessels. So it's really a composite graft that we're...
Describe the patient's condition and why this was an option.
Sure, he had a long time battle with a low-grade cancer in the larynx called a chondrosarcoma. And one way to treat that is to resect it slowly over time to try to prevent somebody from needing a laryngectomy, and unfortunately it just didn't work for him. The benefit he had is he already had a transplant, and so he was on immunosuppression, which made him a great candidate for this.
I was going to ask about the immunosuppression in a second, because there's a great balancing act there, and it's really interesting because you can do this, but you can't do that. But it sounded like, could he speak? Could he swallow? What was his life like?
Sure, yeah. He went through a point where he could not speak at all. Through some reconstruction, he was able to get a bit of a voice out, but really not much of one where he could communicate. He could just the basics. He had a trach tube, so he had to breathe through a hole in his neck because he couldn't breathe through his mouth. He was able to swallow, but only because his larynx was so bad he physically could not aspirate.
And again, he became a good candidate for something. Despite this active cancer, he became a good candidate because?
Because he was on immunosuppression already.
All right, talk about why immunosuppression is such a thing you don't necessarily want. You either want or you don't want with cancer and transplants. You got to make the twain meet, right?
Sure. Yes, exactly right. Yeah. Immunosuppression is wonderful for transplants because it prevents those grafts from being rejected by the body. However, it suppresses the immune system, so it can't fight off cancers or prevent cancers from growing. So that's really where that balance comes from.
And he was on immunosuppressants to treat the cancer.
No, he was actually on immunosuppression for kidney transplant he had previously.
Oh my goodness gracious. Okay,
yes.
So that was there. Did that grease the skids a little bit then?
It did, yeah. It made it much safer for us to be able to do this in that setting because he needed the larynx removed anyway, and he was already on the immunosuppression.
And again, that would help keep the cancer from spreading and all sorts of other things from happening.
Well, correct. Yeah, it didn't put him at additional risk
Yes.
from the cancer spreading because he was already on the immunosuppression. Exactly.
And that would have been a risk if he had not been there.
That's correct.
So the surgery, do I get this right? 21 hours?
21 hours, yes.
Goodness gracious,
Yes.
What was involved here?
So the first part of it was the procurement, where we had a wonderful gift from the family who donated the larynx. And then, so that first part of that, about 3 to 4 hours of that 21 hours is the procurement. And then coming back is the actual transplantation into the recipient.
And the first order was to remove the cancerous larynx, I would imagine.
Exactly right, yep. So the first things first, you have to make sure the patient's safe and the cancer is removed.
When you're transplanting something so involved, with so many different aspects involved, I mean, it just, and it's, it's got to be right, or it's wrong, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I mean, is it intricate work? I mean, are computer-generated models? We're looking at something right now, kind of what's involved here. I mean, how do you prepare for something like this?
Well, first, you have to have a wonderful team of physicians. We had a team of 6 surgeons, the transplant department at Mayo Clinic in Arizona, just nurses, a wonderful faculty and staff. And then you had to have the right patient to make sure that everything was squared away and you knew that recovery was going to be outstanding.
And how's he doing?
He's doing much better than I ever could have dreamed.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
Really? So he's doing,
Yes.
I got to ask, I mean, you're talking voice box here. Does he sound like the donor, or does he sound like himself?
That's a great question, and it isn't what you think it would be. So even though you are donating your voice box, actually the way the voice is produced is the vocal folds, they just vibrate. They're kind of like a guitar string, and the sound of the guitar comes from the body of the guitar. So in our body, the vocal folds vibrate, and that sound comes from our throat, our sinuses, our head, and that's actually what produces our sound.
Interesting,
Yep.
Interesting. So that's the hollow body guitar right there.
That's a hollow body guitar.
So
exactly right.
he sounds pretty much like he did in Will?
Correct. Yeah. So he says it's his voice. It's about, I would say about 60% of his voice. It has a lot to improve, but he can communicate. He can talk to his mom. He can talk to his grandchild. He can communicate.
Is it different or difficult for him to hear his own voice, like in his head? You know, when we speak, we hear ourselves. Is he hearing something else up there?
The way he describes it again is it's his voice, but it's not him yet.
Yes.
To get to that point, and I can understand that.
This was a clinical trial, correct?
It is correct.
Okay, so what does the success of the surgery, what does it suggest for future surgeries?
Well, one is we know that it's safe, so we want to make sure that when we do this, that we really are going to be able to restore the quality of life for people. And because we are able to do this safely, and so far with somebody with cancer, it gives us a little bit of encouragement to say, okay, let's take that next step safely and see if we can do this for more patients in this area, and then with future science, if we can do it with more aggressive cancer.
So very encouraging then on your point.
Absolutely.
And the last point I want to make is that he wanted this mostly so he could read bedtime stories to his granddaughter.
Yes.
And he can do that now, can't he?
He can do that now, yes. I've seen him do it.
Dr. David Lott, Mayo Clinic, Arizona, congratulations. A great story.
Thank you very much.